Okay, how are we doing? Welcome to a new video on exam papers. So I thought this would be useful for you. I'm going to do it on 2019, no, 2015 as well is also a very important one, and any of the Leaving Cert papers for honours who have units 2, 3 and 4. For the ordinary level, you can send me on your work and I'll continue to correct it from the photographs, give you tips and pointers, and it's a lot more straightforward. You can find the answers even more easily on this website, which I'm just about to show you. So the website that's very important for you to do well in Leaving Cert Business is this website, and it's called examinations.ie. So you Google that or type it straight in, come to a screen such as this. I showed you this in class before, so if you want to fast forward this section, do. So you click, make sure I've read the terms and conditions. You click here whether you want the exam paper for business 2019 or the marking scheme, which is the answers basically for 2019 with all the marks, how many's going for each different point. Okay, so then you type in the years. 2019 is what I typed in. Type in the subject you want, Leaving Cert Business Studies. The last one allows you to choose a subject. So choose business, and then come down here and double click on higher level English version, and then you'll have that open. If you right click it, you can open it into a new tab, right? Because it's nice to have the answers and the questions side by side, especially when you're starting off until you get good at them. When you get good at them, obviously then don't look at the answers much, try and do it yourself. And remember, one of the biggest obstacles is time and organization. So time, a lot of students run out of time because they don't have a timer in front of them and they're not timing their questions exactly, and trying to maybe do too much on one question or one part of a question, and then they run out of time at the end. The other problem is organization, in terms of making sure that you have the correct format for your answers, and that is, again, we've mentioned this a lot of times in class: state, explain, maybe 3 bullet pointed sentences to explain an answer. One of those explanations might be an example. And in most cases, when the marks are, depending on the marks they're going for it, you're going to need to state 3 explanations and an example. But depending on time, you might just put one of those examples in as your final explanation. So it's good to have examples. It shows a better understanding of your answer and how you're answering questions. So, okay, moving on. So I've already opened up these 2 files. The exam paper is there. And then we have on the next tab, we have the answer guide. Okay, so I'll maybe do a few questions, stop the video, and then do another one, rather than it being too long. So what we'll do is we'll start in here, we'll have a look. Obviously, a lot of students sometimes forget to look even at the start of the exam and see exactly how much time and everything. So you've got 9:30 to 12:30. That's 10:30, 11:30, 12:30. So obviously that's 3 hours. And here is where your examiner is going to be putting in the marks for your exam, as you saw in your mock exam. And it usually starts with your short questions, which are 80 marks. Again, I've given you a lot of documentation on this on my website, and we've gone through it in class, how to approach exams and also marks going for different sections, and how to organize your answers and all. Okay, so this section is compulsory. That means you have to do it. It's 80 marks. You answer 8 questions. Each carries 10 marks each. And I was recommending that you do every question, especially if you have time, because you might think you have a question right, but it might be wrong, and then they'll pick your best 8 out of the 10. So if I was doing it, I'd often have time, and I'd do, when I was a student, I did Leaving Cert Business, and I would have done all 10, yeah? So I'd recommend students to do that. So number one then gives you a list of column different items, and you have to match them with the column on the right. So we'll do maybe one of these, and I'll move on maybe to section 2. So I think all the short answers are going to be very easy to find for yourself on this. So we'd be wasting time, I think, if we did any further. But we'll flick through quickly some parts, or you're going to be here all day listening and getting bored, and then we'll go through a few of the different sections, give some pointers, and pick out a question each one. So this one here we've got is a question that asks you to match up job description, norming, manpower planning, person specification, and chain of command with the list of items here. And as you can see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 items here, whereas there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 items here. So one of them won't be used. Okay, so if we look across, we need to be able to find and access all of the answers for each section. So come down, down, down is the marking scheme, in other words, the answer scheme with the marks. Again, it's important to read everything, yeah. If we move down here, we have the marking scheme for section 1. So you remember section 1 was the short, compulsory, and you've got 80 marks going for that. Well, it breaks down the points for each question. So your short question 1 is broken down. You get 3 marks, then 2, 2, 2, and 1 for your final one. So you get a few extra marks for getting the first one right. And that maybe helps some students that maybe don't get the full exam finished, that sometimes they give a higher weighting on your first answer rather than your last one. Okay, and then question 2, the marks are broken down, 2 and 2 points, etc. And each time you go through each one of them, they're broken down a little bit differently, and you get 10 marks for each short question. Okay, so we'll move back now to the short questions, run through the next section to see if we can be of help there. So name 3 categories of industry, in the concept of business, what do all the abbreviations stand for? Again, some of those come up regularly. You should have a list of your abbreviations, write them out for practice, and know them. Yeah, there's some common ones there. Explain national minimum wage, describe one possible impact, outline 2 problems, Ireland's trading goods. That's a regular one there, where they ask you to do a little sum, a ratio, sometimes it can be, and other times it's maybe the calculate the balance of trade. Imports, niche marks. So as you can see, they try and give a range of questions from all the units in the book, as balanced as they can. That can sometimes pop up in short questions as well. If not, then if they don't do it in the short questions, they'll usually give you a question on the break-even chart then in the main section. Now, good tip for that is at the start of the exam papers that I bought for you, you'll see at the front, it gives you which questions came up the most often in the exam. So even though it's dangerous to predict what exactly is coming up, it'll give you a good flavor of what comes up regularly in the exams. Right, so section 2 then we know is sometimes called a case study. Some people call it a case study, some people call it an ABQ, not to get confused with it. And these are not the units that your exam are going to be based on, because every year it's based on different units, this section. So for your year, it's based on units 2, 3, and 4. And there's 80 marks going for it. And again, the recommendation here is to read it, underline key bits. But step 1, as we said in class, is to read the questions first in the case study. So then you know what bits you're going to be thinking of highlighting. Okay? So you're going to be using your state, explain, and you can put an example if you want as part of your explanation, but the more important thing here is to have a link or quote coming directly from the text to back up what you're saying in your answer. Okay, so explain the term entrepreneur. And then you've got another question here, part A, outline the benefits for Emma Daly of becoming an entrepreneur. So let's now look at how they're going to break down the marking scheme for part I and part 2 of part A on the marking scheme. So if we go down here, first of all, they give you the marking scheme, okay? And then if you go a bit further down on the screen, you'll get the answers, right? Or a good bit further down, you get the answers. So explain the term entrepreneur. Using your cop on, you'd be thinking to yourself, they're not going to give me a lot of marks for just one definition. So there's 6 marks going for that. So you have to use a bit of maths in your head then. So there's 6 marks going for that. Then there's 14 marks then going for the rest. Okay, and then you have to think to yourself, well, how might that be broken down? So if they're asking for outline the benefits for Emma Daly of becoming an entrepreneur, you need to have a list in your head of the benefits of becoming an entrepreneur. So that means you need a list of states. If you don't have the states, you won't be able to explain, and then you won't have examples. So you need to learn off your states first for important sections throughout the course. Now, so your state then, so it's saying 2 at 7. So you're looking at 2 major benefits here, and you're going to get 2 for stating what the benefit is of becoming an entrepreneur. You're going to get 3 points for explaining it. So you're going to get a point per sentence or per bullet point. That's why we're always saying state, explain, 3 bullet points, and then the link then. So you're going to get 2 marks for putting a quote or direct link from the case study into your answer. Okay, and yeah, so if you add that up, then you've got 2 by 7 is 14. 14 then is 6 will give you 20. So there's your 20 marks for your case study. Now, evaluate. You really need to have, on my website, you've got a list of key terms and explains exactly all those command words. If you don't understand what evaluate means, you're going to struggle to answer the question appropriately. So make sure you've looked at a file called command words on my website under Leaving Cert Business Resources. Okay, so evaluate the management activities involved in the operation of Oakfield, a lodge wedding venue. So there you got to start thinking to yourself, I need to know the management activities, or I'm not going to be able to answer this question. Okay, and remember we were talking about the management activities. There's a little mnemonic we learn: planning, organizing, controlling. Sometimes they add in leading into that. It can be argued whether that could be put in or not. But yeah, so first of all, you need those 3 that I mentioned, and you're going to have to state them. You're going to have to explain what that activity is about. So in other words, what's organizing about. Name it as organizing. That's your first marks going for that. Then you're going to explain it, and then you're going to put your link. So the activity is just another word for a state. So you're getting 3 marks for stating organization. You're going to explain it then, and you've 2 marks going for that. And then you're going to link it back, and that's going to be 3 marks. So often explanation would have more marks than 3 usually for it. This one is just 2. So link then it's a lot of marks going for that, in that it's your 3 marks there. So you also then have additional marks that a lot of students forget about and don't write down at the end of their question. So as soon as you get a question called evaluate, you should have a section at the very end underlined, call it evaluation, and then you want to give your opinions there on, so if they're asking you to evaluate the management activities involved in the operation of Oakfield Lodge wedding venue, you would say, well, I think that their management activities were worked well because I thought organization was important, because I thought planning was important for this local wedding venue, because I think that planning, controlling is important from the financial point of view. Don't forget having resources there, stock for the wedding. But anyway, so you need to be thinking along those lines. And then if you look at the marks, again, you need to do a little bit of maths. 3/8 are 24. So you're getting 24 marks for state, explain, and put your link in. But then you're getting the last 6 marks for your heading called evaluation, where you give your overall opinions on why this was good or bad. Yeah. Okay, and again, any questions, make sure you give me an email. I've given it out to you many times. Okay, the last part is part C then, and it asks students, do you think Oakfield Lodge as a service provider has basically gone along with the terms of the Sale of Goods and Supply of Service Act 1980. Now, I told you this is a really important act to learn and to make sure you have enough states on it. and to be able to explain those states, and then you can have a few examples as well. So explain your answer using the knowledge of the law and refer to the text of the ABQ. So here then, because it says, do you think, they're giving, that's a type of question, you can be aware what type of question we're asking. So 3 9s are 27, and that's broken down with state, the point of law. So for example, you might have fit for purpose, just that on its own, that'd be your state. Of merchantable quality, that would be another one maybe. And then match description, that could be another one. And you leave it at that, but then you'd explain each of those states, and then you'd show links on whether they're being applied or not in this particular case study, right? So that's that done. So moving on. The next section then is going to be called section 3. And in section 3, very important to note is that you answer 4 of your best questions from section 3. Obviously, there's more than 4 there, you just pick the best 4. Now, there's a tricky extra little bit here in that you answer 1 question from part 1, 2 questions from part 2, because you'll see section 3 has different parts to it. So you answer 1 question from part 1, 2 questions from part 2, and 1 other question, so you can get your last question from either part 1 or part 2. And they'll all carry the same amount of marks. So the way this is broken down, part 1 is usually a question based on Unit 1 in the book, and that's about people in business. And as you can see, they've asked you here, explain each of the following terms in relation to the law of contract. Again, very important, law of contract. And provide an example in each case. So explain the following terms, right? 4 at 5 marks each. And that's going to give you your 20. 4 5s are 20. And it's 3 plus 2. Okay, and again, always keep in mind, state, explain, and example. So in this case, if they've given you some of the terms, well, then you're going to concentrate more on the explanations and the examples. But if they haven't, then you want to be able to state capacity, state considerations, state legality of form, state consent contract, then give your explanations and give an example within the time. So it's only 20 marks going for it. So you wouldn't be spending all day writing out all what's in the book on capacity contract. You have to be selective with your information when you're giving answers. Okay, so you have to pick out the most important bits, in other words. Part B then of the same question, question 1, asks for 3 reasons other than pay for an industrial dispute. And again, there's 20, you need to be always look for how many marks are going for it. So obviously there's a lot more need to be written for this one because it's 25 marks. This one's only 15, this one's 20. And outline 3 reasons other than pay for an industrial dispute. So you have to come up with those 3 reasons. And if it says 3, you're obviously going to need 3. And then 3 by 5, so you're going to state for 2 and then explain for 3. And one of those sentences could be an example instead of an explanation. You still get the 3 points. So that'll be 3 5s or 15. 15 minus 25, you're going to be looking at 10 marks. Okay, so 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that's adding up to 10 there. And says discuss the procedures which must be followed before an official industrial action can take place. Okay, so you need to discuss then procedures. Here we've only got 10 marks left, so you want to be listing out the procedures, the official industrial action that you can take, and again, when you have an opportunity to give an example and explain, and then yeah, obviously only 10 marks, so you wouldn't go overboard. Okay, moving down. Evaluate the small claims procedure for resolving conflicts. Again, the pros and cons, evaluate's a very important question. And then at the end, also, in addition to pros and cons, put a title at the bottom, underline and call it evaluation, and give your overall opinion on what you think. Do you think it's a good procedure? Do you think it's a good court? Why? Yeah. Okay, so it's 15 marks going for that. So 3 4s are 12. So you're getting your your marks for state and explaining, maybe an example again instead of one of the explanations, and then 3 marks left over at the end for an evaluation. Okay, so that gives you an idea of how these questions operate. I'll just quickly go through the overall questions, and then we'll be able to break them down a little bit for you. So question 2 then is domestic environment. And again, a lot of the questions are often based on units in the book. So it's good to get used to what the units are called in your book. So go to your book and find out the units and then match them off into the unit questions on the exam papers. And then maybe have a think about what unit are you particularly comfortable with, which one are you going to be, which 4 questions are you going to focus your attentions on in the exam. Again, if you have time, you might do an extra question because they'll pick the best one. Yeah. And that's what I'd do. Okay, so this one is talking about various different things. Marks are broken down similarly. I'm not going to go through the same thing again, but just to know that all these questions are going to be worth 60 marks. So they're all going to be broken down with similar type of marks, 20s or 25s, 15s, in and around that for each question. Okay, we scroll down more. We see question 3 is on the international environment. Now we'd be thinking there about the EU. We'll be talking about Unit 7 that I did a video on recently. So when you're thinking about the international environment, you're thinking, well, that's a question from Unit 7. So you need to get into your head which question is related to which unit in the book. Section 3, Part 2, scenario in Part 2. Again, similar type questions. Section 3 is all the same. They're all worth 60 marks. And then again, looks broken down 20, 20, 20. And same idea, you want to be given your state, explain, and examples. All the way through all these questions for section 3, and just be aware of where the marks are being broken down. So you break those down a bit further to analyze them, and you'll get to that end. So outline the effects of decrease. This is managing business and business in action from units in the book, and again, marks are broken down there for you. Question 6, again, there's no point repeating myself. And question 7. And okay, so then it just goes through some of the actual answers. So what we're on now is the actual answers for the full exam. So all those short questions are answered first. Okay, and then you scroll down, you wait till you get to section 2, right? There's section 2, so that's the ABQ or case study, and that'll be big long answers. That's to be nice and long. You might put in red pen the links or in bold as they've done there. You might underline them if you have time. And again, that's still, so the ABQ, you nearly want about 3 or 4 A4 pages for your ABQ answers as a general rule about that. But again, it's all dependent on time. Okay, so let's see where we are. Section 3 then, again, full answers there. You've no problem opening this up and finding the answers. And the marking scheme, remember I showed you, was up at the top, broken down quite easily. If there's something confusing though, after you've read through these answers, something you don't understand or something that you're not familiar with the marking scheme, you need to make me aware and say, sir, this is confusing. What's the story with this? That's no problem, and I'll come back and help you with it. And I think by the sounds of things, we'd be allowed into class, I think, for 2 weeks before the exam. That's as it currently stands. I don't know if that's confirmed because I don't know what way the COVID-19 is going to go. But when we know, you guys will know, and then we'll work accordingly. Okay, so there's all your answers, all the way to the bottom. Let's see if there's anything at the bottom there that I'm missing. No, that's all section 3. Go through part 1 and 2, section 3, all your different possible responses. I suppose the important thing to note there as well is it's all the possible answers. So to give you way more answers than you need, okay? So you just look at the marking scheme and you'll be able to tell how many states you need, because we've done a lot of that in class. And the rest are just extra notes. And those little extra notes there, you can pop into your mind maps and pop into your own notes to add to the notes that you have. Because these are very specific, obviously very related to the exam papers, so they're going to be very relevant. Okay, that's it. I think that's enough for today. Thanks for your attention. Hope all are well, and I hope that was helpful. Bye-bye.